In the 2024 Formula One season, Ferrari has shown undeniable progress. Compared to the previous championship, the SF24 single-seater has resolved some issues that emerged with its predecessor and managed to win as many as 5 races. From the single Singapore event in 2023 to a quintet, namely Australia, Monaco, Italy, USA, and Mexico, that nearly allowed the prancing horse team to secure a constructors' title, which would have been astonishing. Over the course of a single season, the Italian team moved from third to second place in the constructors' standings, overtaking Mercedes and, most importantly, Red Bull, which had seemed unattainable to everyone until the second part of 2024. This progression now needs to be confirmed and solidified. Compared to the previous championship, the SF24 single-seater has resolved some issues that emerged with its predecessor and managed to win as many as 5 races. From the single Singapore event in 2023 to a quintet, namely Australia, Monaco, Italy, USA, and Mexico, that nearly allowed the prancing horse team to secure a constructors' title, which would have been astonishing. Over the course of a single season, the Italian team moved from third to second place in the constructors' standings, overtaking Mercedes and, most importantly, Red Bull, which had seemed unattainable to everyone until the second part of 2024. This progression now needs to be confirmed and solidified. Many innovations will characterize Project 677, which is the internal code for the Maranello team's 2025 Formula One car, innovations that have recently been confirmed by Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur himself. But there is one area in particular that may receive special attention: the brakes. The technical battle between Maranello and Woking in 2024 also played out on this front, and it is worth pointing out that the Ferrari SF24 had a much simpler brake configuration compared to McLaren MCL38. In the Mexico City Grand Prix, the most challenging of the entire championship for cooling due to the thin air, significant differences emerged. Even though Ferrari won the race at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, McLaren appeared less troubled. It seems paradoxical, but that's how it was. Let's rewind the tape. The Ferrari engineers and technicians had opted for an aggressive configuration of the brake duct inlets, with a more pronounced narrowing of the opening, betting on the ability to run in clean air. We recall that Carlos Sainz started from pole position and Charles Leclerc from 4th position. The strategy worked for the Spaniard who, once he overtook Max Verstappen, which was quicker off the line, sped toward victory. Charles Leclerc was also performing well in second place, but lapped traffic in the final stages negatively impacted the strategic plan, allowing Lando Norris to catch up and overtake, taking advantage of a mistake by the Monegasque driver who was struggling with brake temperatures. Charles Leclerc's issues had already begun in the early stages of the Mexico City Grand Prix. When the Monegasque driver was less than 2 seconds behind his Maranello teammate, the brake caliper temperatures began rising alarmingly. This necessitated the use of the lift and coast technique, a need magnified and misunderstood in the scattered post-race social commentary. The technical battle on that occasion between the two championship-leading teams focused on brake cooling, an area where McLaren outperformed Ferrari, despite the Mexican Grand Prix being won by the SF24 car of Carlos Sainz. Andrea Stella, team principal of the Woking team, and also an engineer, it's worth noting, praised his technical staff for designing and producing the new brake cooling components in time for the Mexican Grand Prix. The Italian manager, who was also part of the Ferrari F1 team for more than a decade, between 2000 and 2015, emphasized that, thanks to the new components, the issue of cooling was never a concern for McLaren during the Mexican weekend, allowing for excellent cooling levels without compromising aerodynamic efficiency. The McLaren MCL38 and the Ferrari SF24 therefore had two different approaches to brake cooling. The brake caliper cooling system of the papaya-colored car features a larger air intake compared to its red counterpart. Moreover, on the MCL38, the ducts split into a dual-headed cooling channel. This section, among other things, is made of carbon fiber, whereas Ferrari's is aluminum. Carbon fiber is more thermally manageable, as it conducts less heat than metals, including aluminum. In Mexico City, Ferrari's system, simpler in design despite the addition of more holes on the discs, failed to dissipate heat effectively during stress phases, such as during the late lapping maneuvers Charles Leclerc had to perform. This caused overheating, contributing to the Monegasque driver's error, which Lando Norris capitalized on. Projecting this difference onto the general behavior of the two cars, one might speculate, without claiming to reveal technical insights through simple logical reasoning, that the occasional difficulty the SF24 had in managing the tire's thermal window was partly due to this factor. Over the 2024 Formula One Championship, McLaren was more consistent with the Pirelli tires, causing less stress and adapting better to varied conditions. Ferrari, by contrast, encountered serious challenges when air and track temperatures fell below a certain threshold. The heat dissipated by the brakes is a key factor in controlling tire temperature, and it is likely that McLaren's more complex system, combined with the use of composite materials, resulted in less sensitivity to thermal fluctuations, ultimately benefiting consistent performance and reducing tire thermal degradation. Ferrari delivered true masterclasses in compound management as seen in the Italian Grand Prix at the Monza circuit, but also faced significant struggles in other scenarios, such as in the Canadian Grand Prix or the Brazilian Grand Prix. These races, supporting the argument, were run in wet conditions and low temperatures. The focus is now on how to improve the Ferrari single-seater for the upcoming Formula One Championship. The car to be entrusted to Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will feature over 90% new parts, according to team principal Frédéric Vasseur. This has been presented as a sensational news by the media, though it is quite normal even under a regulatory framework of continuity. Among the updates, there will likely be a new design for the brake air intakes, internal fluid dynamics, and ducts for dissipating hot air. Aluminum is expected to be replaced by carbon, which is lighter. This brings a major advantage in balance, considering it involves unsprung masses, and most importantly, provides more consistent thermal responses, avoiding the fluctuations that negatively impact tires. These factors affect thermal degradation and also the warm-up process, the tire's ability to deform and return to its original shape. Having a more responsive compound in this respect is of vital importance. Callum Frith, head of the tire department, has pushed to achieve more consistent conditions for setting up more effective pit exit procedures, with which Charles Leclerc in particular struggled last season, precisely because there will be no regulatory changes between 2024 and 2025. Ferrari wants to focus on refining details to deliberately aim for both Formula One titles. The second half of the last season demonstrated that Maranello has everything it takes to compete. The prancing horse is serious about producing a less moody car, less dependent on environmental conditions, to finally put an end to the long drought and win the Formula One World Constructors Championship for the first time in almost 2 decades. With Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the Maranello team has the best lineup on the grid for 2025, and now the final element is needed for success, as Ferrari finally seems able to make that decisive step forward which the fans have been waiting for.